War is hell, but sometimes, it's also completely, utterly insane. We're not talking about strategy or tactics here. We're talking about moments so bizarre, so unbelievable, they sound like they were ripped straight from a Hollywood movie script. Today, we're rediving into 7 of the most mind-bending true stories from the battlefield that will make you question everything you thought you knew about warfare. Get ready, because these are not your average history lessons. Let's start with a story that sounds like a horror film. It's February 1945, World War II. On Ramri Island, off the coast of Burma, British forces are pushing back the Japanese army. About 1,000 Japanese soldiers, cornered and desperate, retreat into the island's dense, treacherous mangrove swamps. The British troops set up a perimeter and decide to wait them out. But as night falls, a new kind of terror begins. From deep within the swamp, they hear screams. Horrible blood-curdling screams that don't sound entirely human. The noise continues all night long. The next morning, when the sun rises, only about 20 Japanese soldiers stumble out of the swamp, alive but in a state of shock. What happened to the other 980 men? The official British military record is chillingly brief. It simply states the cause of death for most of them was crocodiles. The massive saltwater crocodiles inhabiting the swamp had done what the British army couldn't. Nature had finished the war for them in one horrifying night. Next up, a story of survival that defies all logic. It's 1943, over Nazi-occupied France. RAF tail gunner Alan McGee is in a B-17 bomber, cruising at 22,000 feet. Suddenly, the plane is hit and engulfed in flames. McGee is trapped in his turret, his parachute destroyed. The situation is hopeless. Then, the plane explodes. The force of the blast throws him out into the freezing thin air. He is now in a freefall, plummeting 4 miles towards the earth with no parachute. His life should have ended right there. But fate, or some bizarre miracle, had other plans. He smashes through the glass roof of the St. Nazaire train station and lands on the steel girders and seats below. Miraculously, the impact is cushioned just enough. He's found by German soldiers, who are completely baffled. They look at this man who fell from the sky and simply ask, "How are you even alive?" McGee suffered 28 broken bones but survived the war. He lived a full life, passing away in 2003, an 18,000-foot fall without a parachute, and he lived to tell the tale. Now let's talk about the definition of a one-man army. Korean War, 1951. The brutal Battle of the Chosin Reservoir. U.S. Marine Anthony Tony Stein watches his unit get pinned down by heavy enemy fire from a fortified hill. Seeing his comrades getting cut down, Stein does something incredible. He finds a machine gun on a downed aircraft, rips it off its mount, and decides to use this heavy weapon, which he nicknamed his Stinger, as a personal assault rifle. He then charges the enemy hill. Alone, he single-handedly kills over 20 enemy soldiers before running out of ammunition. But he isn't done. He starts throwing rocks and using his empty weapon as a club. When that's over, he runs back down the hill, right through the same enemy fire, and proceeds to carry wounded Marines to safety, making a total of 8 separate trips. For his actions, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. Tragically, just 2 months later, Tony Stein was killed in action, doing the exact same thing, charging headfirst into danger to save his men. War isn't always about fighting. Sometimes, it's about a soccer game. It's Christmas Day, 1914, the first year of World War I. Along the Western Front, something extraordinary happens. In a section of no man's land, German and British troops, who had been trying to kill each other just hours before, spontaneously call a truce. They cautiously climb out of their muddy trenches. They start to talk, swap cigarettes and souvenirs, and even share photos from home. Then, someone produces a makeshift soccer ball. And right there, in the middle of a deadly battlefield, an impromptu game of football breaks out between the Germans and the British. To this day, nobody is sure who actually won the game. The scores are still disputed. For a few brief hours, they were not enemies, but just men. They even buried their dead together. But when the next morning came, the generals ordered the fighting to resume, and they went back to being soldiers trying to murder each other. A bizarre, and deeply human, moment of peace in the middle of unimaginable chaos. From a temporary truce to a war that never ended for one man. The year is 1945. World War II is over. Japan has surrendered. But someone forgot to tell Lieutenant Hiro Onoda. Stationed in the jungles of the Philippines, Onoda and a few of his men see the leaflets announcing the war's end but dismiss them as enemy propaganda. They believe it's a trick. So, they continue to fight. For the next 29 years, Onoda lives in the jungle, waging his own private war. He conducts guerrilla raids on local villages, skirmishes with Filipino police, and survives on a diet of stolen rice and bananas. Search parties are sent, and his family even pleads with him over loudspeakers to come home, but he refuses to believe the war is over. Finally, in 1974, the Japanese government tracks down his old commanding officer, now an elderly bookseller. They fly him to the Philippines. The commander walks into the jungle and personally gives Onoda the formal order to stand down. Only then does Hiro Onoda surrender. He walks out of the jungle, a ghost from another era. With his 29-year-old uniform still intact, his rifle still in working order, and his sword still sharp. How much punishment can a tank take? Let's look at the story of Eagle 7. It's 1944, the battle for Cologne, Germany. An American Pershing tank, nicknamed Eagle 7, rounds a corner and comes face to face with a German Panther tank. In a legendary duel caught on film, the Pershing destroys the Panther, but its day wasn't over. Later, Eagle 7 is ambushed by two of the most feared tanks of the war, the German King Tigers. The crew refuses to abandon their vehicle. What follows is a relentless barrage. The Pershing takes over 200 direct hits from the powerful German guns. The armor plates on the front of the tank begin to glow red-hot from the constant impacts, but the tank and its crew just won't quit. The driver keeps maneuvering, reversing and advancing, as if nothing is happening. The sheer resilience is unbelievable. Eventually, the Germans, likely bewildered and out of ammunition, retreat. After the war, Eagle 7 was sent to be scrapped. The reason? It had taken so many hits that it literally had no armor left on its front hull. It had absorbed everything the enemy could throw at it and kept on rolling. Finally, a story that proves you don't always need a gun to be a hero. It's 1944 in occupied Holland. An entire unit of 80 German SS soldiers gets lost in the countryside. Confused? They knock on the door of a local farmhouse to ask for directions. The man who answers the door is a simple Dutch farmer, and this farmer is 100% done with the Nazis occupying his country. What he does next is the stuff of legend. With nothing but a pitchfork and sheer audacity, he orders the entire unit of armed soldiers into his barn and locks the door. He then calmly calls the local resistance to come and pick up his prisoners. With a single pitchfork, he single-handedly captured 80 enemy soldiers without firing a single shot. Legend has it, his only words to the surprised SS troops were a simple, commanding, "In you go, boys." War is hell, filled with tragedy and horror. But as these stories show, it's also a theater for the unbelievable, the bizarre, and the insanely courageous. It pushes human beings to their absolute limits and sometimes, far beyond. Which one of these stories shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to hear more tales that sound too crazy to be true, hit that like button and let us know you want a part 2. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.